الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وحبيبه حافظ سره ومبلغ رسالاته حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين الهداة المهديين، واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أعداء الله أجمعين من الآن إلى لقاء يوم الدين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم: ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. A companion of Imam Sadiq came to him and asked a question which I think is a very valid and thought-provoking question. He asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, what's the reason that people left Imam Hussein and betrayed their own words and their own promise and pact with him? And not only that, in general, why people after the Prophet, when it comes to Imam Ali in the Battle of Jamal or Imam Hassan, they neglected and they left those who were worthy of Ahlul Bayt. What was the main reason? And the answer of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was regarding Bani Umayyah as one of the most prominent enemies of Ahlul Bayt. Bani Umayyah, children of Umayyah, by the way, are descendants of Abu Sufyan, a prominent enemy of the Prophet. And after him it continued with Muawiyah, and then continued with Yazid, and then came to other oppressive rulers of the Bani Umayyah dynasty. So Imam said Bani Umayyah's trick and way to approach people in order to get them on their side and also confuse them in order to abandon Ahlul Bayt, Imam Hussein, Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, was that they let people freely to learn about Iman. أطلق الناس على تعليم الإيمان. They left people to learn about Iman. And what we mean by Iman is about, basics of, rituals, pray, fast. They didn't stop people from those things. So even if you would go to Sham, where the Bani Umayyah had that dominance, you would see that people would talk about prayers and how to pray and details of rituals. But what they've done, which eventually caused all this bad decisions and eventually destruction for the way that Islam wanted to have an impact on people's life, was that they stopped and prevented people to learn about shirk. They stopped them to learn about shirk. Shirk means polytheism. In general, it means anything that is trying to offer an alternative understanding of the creation outside the presence of God. So if somebody tried to understand the world with humanism, that human beings are in charge of whatever they do, we have the right to do what we want, God does not have much power, that's one form of shirk. Somebody thinking that nature has that power, there's God and then there's nature, that's another form of shirk. Because shirk means association with God. There's God and there's something next to God. If you believe nature and human beings intelligent and everything is subordinates of God or something that is ultimately submissive to God, that's not shirk. But if you believe there's God and then there's this thing, whatever it is, that's a form of shirk. And Bani Umayyah, they've done that very well. They did not want people to learn about what is wrong, what is considered to be a false narrative, a false notion of understanding religion. They didn't want people to know what's wrong. We can say that in Quran in a form of that they let people to know about light, but they didn't want them to know about darkness. It was okay for them to people know about guidance, but they didn't want to people know about misguidance. That's why Yazid was a man who was considered, even till this day, there are some prominent, unfortunately, so-called Muslim speakers that they try to defend the honor of Yazid, even till this day. Say, yeah, he was the commander of faithful. So he was an alcoholic, he was a drunk. How are you going to consider him a commander of faithful? No, that's not our position to judge. That continues till this day. Because for him, he was so-called Muslim, and whatever was the form that they end up selecting him, which was the dynasty, Muawiyah came and said, okay, my son will be the next. It was not based on qualification. And he was a drunk. He was somebody who would have harams. He would force people to marry her. He would, do everything that we consider forbidden. It was acceptable to him. Not only him, we can go even previous Bani Umayyah's governors and rulers, that they are similar. For example, in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, from Bani Umayyah, they brought sorcerers and magicians into mosque to do trickery inside the mosque. And people said, we do prayer and also that is happening. We don't know what's wrong. So it's fine if that's happening. So subject of tonight's speech, and which I think it will continue on this, which it will take time, is to understand both what is the meaning of guidance and straight path, because it's a very vague term. Everybody think they're on the right path. I think I'm in the right path. And sometimes our beliefs and performance is exactly opposite. So that's not going to be the case that, okay, I go this way and you go that way and both of us we're going to arrive at the same destination. If it's exactly opposite. Sometimes there are going to be different paths. Let's say if you take 10 or if you take sometimes 605 or 210, you will eventually get to destination. But if you're going, 5 north and 5 south, you're not going to get to the same place. That's why in Quran Allah talks about balance. And I've talked about this. Those who talk about love and they don't understand hate, there will never be people who understand love properly. Those who talk about compassion, as I mentioned, but they don't understand the meaning of hatred, bigotry, and animosity, they will not be able to experience that properly. It's very essential to know both sides. Not to do both sides, to know both sides. Because one without another will be imperfect, they're complete. In Buddhism, and they talk about that symbol, right? Yin and yang, that each of them, you need the darkness and light and light. I'm not pushing you toward that understanding. My perception is the Islamic and Quranic perception of the meaning of that. So for example, in our daily prayers, we say in Surah Hamd, Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Oh God, guide me to the straight path. Sirat al-Mustaqim, right? And then in order to understand Sirat al-Mustaqim and straight path, Allah talks about the both side. Sirat al-Ladhina an'amta alayhim, that's the positive side to understand, which means the path of those that you blessed, the path of those that you blessed them with your favors and your blessings. That's the positive side, that's the light side, that's the guidance side. And then you have the antonym, the opposite, which is غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. Not the path of those that they earned your anger and wrath, and not the path of those who are lost. So in order to understand straight path, you need to know أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, and we need to know ضَالِّينَ and مَغْضُوبَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Because if we don't know who are the مَغْضُوبَ عَلَيْهِمْ, we could be one of the people that we earn God's wrath, but we think we're blessed. Right? I would not know the difference because everything is the same to me. It's like somebody who never, understood, they tasted or never learned what is sugar and what is salt. Right? They never had that understanding and perception. A child, a baby. And you put sugar in front of them and tell them this is salt. What they're going to do from that day on? You tell me what they're going to do. Call it salt. It's salt. Even if it tastes sweet, it's salt. Because they don't know better. So for somebody who don't know what misguidance is, what maghdubi alayhim, dhalleen, lost and misguided, if they don't know who they are, they will always consider the only definition they know, which is straight path. I'm the one who's God blessed me with. I could do exactly everything against the book of God, but I still consider myself the blessed. That's why the balance is Quran is always there to talk about misguidance and guidance. Even in Ayatul Kursi say قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغَيِّ. Allah said we elaborated, we explained to you what is the path of growth, rushd, growing, getting better, improvement, and ghay, the path of decay, destruction, going down. So we explained both paths. So when we read traditions about what is good to do, also we have to know about what not to do. It is as important. So I've heard lectures about, what to do with our children. It's always about what to do with them, right? Promote and encourage them, give them confidence, good things, which are the things we do. But sometimes people who don't understand what we shouldn't do. An example of that, those said, I have to be friend with my child. My friend is my buddy. My son is, or my daughter is my buddy, my friend. Which is something, so it means be close to your children. Don't create that unnecessary barrier that they start hiding away and live a life of secrecy. But that should and must also have a shouldn't and something to stay away. And that is that don't go to a level of relationship and friendship with your son that you become somebody who approve their bad behavior. That's something you should not do. Regardless how close you're to your son or daughter, you have to put your foot down sometimes and say no. There are books that said the power of no. And then there is a book called Yes Man. And one says, when you say yes all the time, you open the door of opportunities to yourself. You start learning new things, you start experiencing new things. And then there's a power of no, and said, don't say yes all the time. Say no, because if you say yes all the time, you will waste time, you will waste your resources. And none of them, if in absolute and in, doing it in one way is not going to help us to live a normal life, because we need yes and we need no. We need both of them. That intelligence and that wisdom to know when to say yes and when to say no, it could be acquired by thinking, experience, studying, whatever is the form of, earning some form of wisdom. So there's not absolutism, never works that way. It should be only and only this way. So before we go to misguidance or deviance, which is one of those subjects we discuss a lot. Why we go wrong. What is the meaning of wrong? Let's first talk about what's right. Let's talk about a straight path. Because if you know what's right, then inshallah we will be able to understand what's wrong. It helps us. First know the path of growth and rushd before we go to ghay. Right? So let's just start with that. So first one is I'm going to quickly, mention it because we discussed it before. And that is that the first meaning of Sirat al-Mustaqim, straight path, Quran says is right away. Straight path is the path of those that we favored them. We completed our favors on them. Sirat al-Ladhina an'amta alayhim. That's the first meaning of straight path. The path of those individuals that God appointed them, which in another ayah said, who are those people that we favored them, we blessed them? So they are prophets of God, Nabiyyin, أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. So individuals, prophets and messengers of God, truthful people. So that truthful people could be a non-prophet. If you go before Ahlul Bayt, we have individuals that they were not prophets of God, but what they said was Siddiq, they were truthful. Like Luqman, so you say he was not a prophet, and tradition said. Or for example, Habib al-Najjar is a mu'min, is a believer from Yasin, Ali Yasin. These are individuals who are not prophets of God. Or Ashab al-Kahf, the companion of the caves. They're not prophets of God, but they're Siddiqeen. They're truthful. They stand by the side of truth. So they are those that you have to follow their path. Prophets of God, truthful. Shuhada, the martyrs. Again, martyrs from the beginning, from Habil was martyred by Qabil all the way to recent times. Those that they understood the meaning of life is sometimes is to understand why you live. What are you living for? Not what are you just breathing for. It's not about survival, it's about actually living. And sometimes in order to live, you understand to stand up, which is not a simple thing. I don't think it takes time to fathom understanding of somebody reaching that state of shaheed. And then salihin, reformers. Who are the reformers? The same people we mentioned, they are reformers, prophets of God, Ahlul Bayt, companions of the true companions of the prophets of God. The martyrs, these are reformers. What is a reformer? Who is a reformer, by the way? Reformer is someone that when you see a problem, when you see something wrong, you try to fix it to the best of your ability from the proper channels. And I'm going to do whatever is necessary to just fix it. No, from proper, permissible, lawful ways, you try to fix a problem. Verbally, you advise people, or you start creating some kind of tradition, some practice in order to fix a problem. That's why all the messengers of God, they were saying that one of our greatest objective is to be salih. Salih means I'm here to help you, to fix the problem. Right? So for example, when Musa is leaving his brother Harun, said, my brother aslih wa la tattabi sabil al-mufsidin. My brother, try to reform this nation, my people, our people, and don't follow the path of those who are corrupt. So try to fix the problem. So that is going to people who are on the straight path. They're not careless people. When they see somebody going on the wrong path, they try to help them. Not every so-called believer is like that. But for a believer, I want something you imagine. A lot of people call Amr bil Ma'ruf Nahy anil Munkar, enjoining toward good, forbid from evil, being judgmental, being intrusive, being nosy. Mind your own business. What is Amr bil Ma'ruf Nahy anil Munkar? State your own life. Stop being so intrusive. Respect people's privacy. Which, by the way, Amr bil Ma'ruf Nahy anil Munkar is not about privacy, it's about public. Somebody, whatever they do in private, how do you even know about it if it's private? If you've heard it from someone secretly, you start sneaking and looking from the, I don't know, gap or from some corner, you're doing something wrong. That's no amr bil ma'ruf. But after someone did something publicly, it's not being judgmental, any of that. The mentality and the mindset is very simple. Is if somebody's drowning, there are videos that people once in a while, again, thanks to a lot of those brothers and sisters who share a lot of WhatsApp videos with me. Once again, thank you for those enlightening videos. And if you don't look at them, sometimes they send a message which they have a question or they need something, and it goes missing among all those other stuff. So once in a while I check to make sure I'm not missing any actual, message. So, but with that comes that sometimes you see something. So there are videos that sometimes people send to me with the title called Restore Faith in Humanity, or Faith in Humanity Restored, which are the videos about somebody being in some kind of dilemma, some issue, and somebody a Samaritan, some good person comes and helps them. Said, oh, faith in humanity restored. We're not that evil. We're not that bad, which is good. It actually, heartwarming to see it. You see somebody's dealing with an issue, somebody comes and helps them. That's very good. The mindset toward guidance. I said, imagine the same way that when you see, let's say if somebody's drowning, we see people jump. I think it was a zoo, a child fell into one of the animals' cages, and there were few people literally risking their lives to go and save the baby. So that's very heartwarming because they see something wrong and they want to save. That's what his reformer is about. But unfortunately, in the time that we live in, is only about the body. If somebody's physically in danger, there are good Samaritans who risk their lives to save others. Or they stop the car in the middle of the road and they go help some elderly to pass the road. Or you can an unlimited example of good sense of being, the chivalry, being kind and compassionate. These are good things. But on the top of that, in Islam, it said, when you see somebody spiritually also they're dying. Same way that you don't sit idle and let somebody drown. Even an animal, you don't watch them as a bystander to let it suffer. Islam said Amr Marif is about that. You see somebody suffering, try to help. Give him a hand. When you ask somebody to pray, you're not doing it for your sake. The worst Amr bil Maruf is, let me remind you, the worst Amr bil Maruf is that to tell people who are not doing the right thing, so do it for the sake of others, not God. I've heard people tell to the, elder, or usually the oldest son or daughter, start doing the right things. For example, if you don't pray, so look at your younger siblings, they're looking up to you. Is that the only reason you have to be good is for their sake? There's nothing in for you. For their sake, be good. And I say, why? How long you can take this, force them to take this guilt trip? I'm going to pray so they don't learn from me. But for their own sake. And if they disconnect that connection with God, they're suffocating the soul. That's why you feel sad. The same way we see somebody who's drunk and how miserable they are. Same way as somebody who's, they indulge in gossip. They're miserable. They try to find some meaning in other people's life. So you try to help them. That should be the mentality, not judging them, not saying I'm better than you, not saying that, oh, you're next to me, please go away, I don't want to be, punished with you. None of that. It's just you see somebody suffer and you try to help. In the recitation of the verses, our brother, they recited and they read the translation as well. فَلَا تَذْهَبْ نَفْسُكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسَرَاتٍ. Allah is saying to Prophet that you care so much about them that you are suffering, you are melting to help them. Don't do it, don't overdo it. فَلَا تَذْهَبْ نَفْسُكَ. that you have so much hasra. You feel sorry, you feel bad for them. This hasra is being envious in a sense that they could be much better. Why they still do what they do? So this is the first definition of Sirat al-Mustaqim, by the way. Sirat al-Mustaqim, Quran says, is right after that. It means the path of those who are blessed. Who are they? Means the path of prophets, the path of truthful, the path of martyrs, the path of reformers, salihin, the righteous. Those who are not only right themselves, they try to help people as well. So that's first definition. Find those people and follow them. It's literally like signs. When every road, you need a sign to tell you which direction is the right direction. Before we talk about, if this road, how many bond it has, how wide it is. First you think about, okay, is it north or is it south? You look at the sign. The sign, Quran said, is an'amta alayhim. The path of the straight path. If you want to make sure it's the right path or not, the sign, literally their name. We call Ahlul Bayt in Ziyarat Jama Kabira, what do we call them? Anybody knows? A'lam. A'lam, alam means sign, literally means sign. You are the signs of God. Ahlul Bayt, after the Prophet, are signs of God. Prophets were signs of God. They're directing you toward a straight path. Turuqun ilallah, subul or sabil ilallah. They're the path toward Allah. That's one. The second one is a more elaborative description of what Sirat al-Mustaqim is about. It gives you details of what Sirat al-Mustaqim. I'm going to just list those from the Quran itself. Say the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allah. So I want you to follow the subject of this speech is understanding what is the straight path, and exactly, and against that, the opposite of that, what is the lost path, the path of the deviance. So somebody who somehow they lost the direction of a straight path, how we can differentiate between the straight path and the other one. And we said, number one, Quran says, look at the sign, prophets and people who are worthy, like the truthful, the martyrs, the righteous. These are the people who help you to find the straight path. The second one is in Surah An'am. In this surah, Allah in verse 151 and 152 list a very detailed description of what Sirat al-Mustaqim is. So I'm going to just list it because these are subjects I've discussed before, so I don't want to repeat myself. This is how Allah ends in verse 153. After two verses, He says, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. He literally says in Quran, this is one of the ways of tafsir, the commentary and interpretation we talked, that in order to understand some verses of Quran, you need to understand other verses. You put them next to each other, they make complete sense. So in this case, what is Sirat al-Mustaqim? We ask every day Allah for that. Guide me to Sirat al-Mustaqim, a straight path. There's a detail. It said these two verses, this is the straight path. فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. Follow it. This is not just to kiss and use it as a source of blessing and use it as a decorative piece in your house. فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. Follow it. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلِ. Don't follow other paths. There are other roads around. There are other people who are shouting, this is the straight path. This is it. I'm giving you the detail. So don't get confused with the other path and other roads. فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. So what are they? I listed to you. Number one. So verse start with this. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُ مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ. So to define a straight path, Allah says to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet says, Ta'alaw, tell people to come forward, that I will recite for you what Allah warned you about, what Allah forbid you. So in order to be on the straight path, it means don't, you know, as a driver, for example, say don't do maneuvers in the road, right? Just go directly, don't change lanes quite often. So there's a lot of don'ts in driving, right? There's not a lot of do's but don'ts. Don't do this, don't do that. Don't engage with road rage and somebody who's dealing with road. Don't do this, don't do that. So in Quran, Allah said in the straight path, Prophet started with asking Allah, telling Prophet, come forward, I'm going to tell you what not to do and what to do. So what is number one? Number one, Allah tushriku bihi shay'a. Don't associate anyone with God. There is no equivalent to God. That's it. But shirk is not a simple concept. To get rid of shirk completely, it takes a lot of efforts and obedience. And I said this story that a young man went to ask a girl's family for marriage. So when this young gentleman came, the family of the bride, they asked, okay, what do you have? He said, what do you mean? He said, what do you have? Do you have a house? He said, no, I don't. So do you have a car? He said, no, I don't. So what do you have? He said, I'm studying, I have a job, I'm working. Inshallah, we'll get those things. I have courage, I have iman, this is what I can do. And they said, no, we can't wait for that. What if you don't end up having those things? We cannot gamble the life of our daughter over that. So they rejected the guy. So this bride, this girl is watching. Family decided for her in this case. So the second candidate came. And this second candidate, they asked him, what do you have? So, I have a car, I have a house, I have a big business, I have a lot of money, I have a big bank account. I think they call it fat bank account, whatever it means. But after they started researching this person, said he's not somebody who prays, he's not somebody, he doesn't refrain from alcohol, he drinks, he does everything else. Even, engage in outside the marriage relationship. He's not really, whatever is the word you use, he's not a niche guy, whatever is that, he's not the ideal candidate in that sense. But the family said, inshallah, he will repent and he will change. He will get better. We will pray for him. And the girl came forward to her parents and said, I just have a question. Said, what's your question? Said, how many God do you have? And the parents were shocked. Said, what do you mean? We have only one God. Of course, there's only one God. So, but I just want to know that in the first case, the guy said, with the help of my faith and God, I will acquire those things, and you didn't trust that God. But in the second case, this person, he was not even, that good of a character in person. He said God will help him, he will change. Which God do we have to believe in? This is a form of shirk, hidden shirk, concealed shirk, implied shirk. It's not apparent. You cannot call somebody mushrik for this. But hidden and spiritual is a form of it because you don't believe in the same standard for God. That's the issue. And Allah said, Allah sirat al-mustaqim is that. Straight path is that don't associate someone with God. There's so much in shirk we can talk about. Again, but I want to just make a list. Second, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Straight path means honor your parents. If you cannot honor people who brought you to this world, you will never be able to find God. Even if they are kafir. Even if they are sinners, even if they're corrupt, you cannot dishonor them. Number 3, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُم مِّنْ إِمْلَاقٍ. Don't kill your children over the fear of poverty, over fear of, not being able to provide for them. In our time, people don't even want to have children. That's one form of it. It's not, of course, as horrible as somebody bringing a child and then, God forbid, decide to end their lives. But there's another form. I don't even want to have a child. A sheikh is too expensive. And they give me numbers. Sheikh, it costs $2 million to raise a child in this state. And I said, good for you. Don't kill a child over money, over financial concerns. This is نحن نرزقكم وإياهم. The same one who provides for you, which is me, I will provide for them. Next one, this is number 4. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الْفَوَاحِشْ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. Do not approach indecency. Fawahish, indecent, anything that is indecent. What is public? مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا, what is obvious? وَمَا بَطَنَ, what is hidden. So some form of indecency could be in public, which unfortunately we know a lot of form of it. And there's some form of it that you can do it in private. Nobody knows, but Allah knows. So the straight path is not live a hypocritical life of, in public you are the believer. Iltimas dua shaykh. Keep me in your du'as tonight. But in secret, Shaitan says iltimas dua to that person, Next one. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. Don't kill any innocent person. إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ, except with the right reason. There are cases of exception. For example, let's say if the life of a mother is in danger, and the only way to preserve the life of a mother, that unfortunately the child cannot survive, that's this is a haqq, this is a truthful way. Self-defense. Somebody's coming and attack you and you defend yourself. This is a truthful way. These are illa bil haq. This is haq. This is the right way. But in just going and randomly killing, not self-defense, not for a right reason. That's the straight path. Honoring life, preserving life. ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. This is what is the advice of God. This is what the prescription of God, if you're looking for, hopefully that you may be pious and God conscious. لَعَلَّكُمْ. There's a hope for you. لَعَلَّ in Arabic refers to that there's no certainty. But even if you do these things, there's a possibility for somebody not be God conscious. But there is hope. With doing this, it leads you to the gates of piety. So that's shirk, no to shirk, honor your parents, don't kill children, don't stay away from indecency. And number 5 was to don't kill innocent, to don't kill another person. Number 6, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ. Don't approach. Taqrabu in Arabic, by the way, doesn't mean don't do it. It means don't approach it. Don't even go to something that may lead you to the problem. For example, Quran said, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't even approach adultery. It doesn't mean don't do adultery. It means don't even have a conversation that may lead to adultery. Don't even flirt on social media that could lead to something. Taqrabu, qurba means close. Don't do something that may even push you, even convince you. There's maybe temptation with doing that. Stay away from that. But everybody wants to raise Yusuf, by the way. Everybody said, Shaykh, this is America. We want to have a child, raise a child, that they're able to stay away from haram even after they face the opportunity. And I said, brother or sister, Yusuf ran away from haram. He didn't stay. Okay? Let's chat. I'm not going to commit the haram, but let's come to an understanding. He ran away. When you know there's something wrong, there's something fishy, you don't wait there to test your iman. Finish. I tell people, If I'm a sheikh, or if I'm a school, a high school or college student, or if I'm a married person, or if I'm a single person, makes no difference. There's always possibility of slipping. If you see something is not right, and of course, especially a lot of our youth, they understand it. MashaAllah, the intelligence of our people is not, it's beyond what we imagine. They know it. If somebody have the wrong intention from the first few sentences, you get it. From the body language, you can read the whole thing. So Quran said, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ. Number 6 of the straight path, the definition of a straight path, the example of a straight path, is to stay away from orphans, property and wealth. Mal means what they own. إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ أَشُدَّهُ. Unless you can make, grow their wealth or make it even better. It means that if you try to help them and you end up losing, you have to replace their money. So if your intention is good, you can say, I'm going to help them, but you have to try to help them in order to preserve their wealth until they become mature, baligh, and then you return their wealth to them. This, again, it's amazing, and how much of that in our societies we see. Number 7, وَأَوْفُوا الْكَيْلَ وَالْمِيزَانَ بِالْقِسْطِ. When it comes to weight, when it comes to measurement, means in sales and transactions and business transaction, it usually is about weight. Those who have value based on weight, or if it's measurement. And when it comes to these two, make sure it's based on justice, fairness. So in other words, don't steal. There's some weird thing I've heard how people steal. They in old time, right now we have the computerized scales, right? In the old time, it was metal weight on one side. They put it in, and it was the manual scale. So you put, for example, 1 pound or 2 pound metal in this side, and then you put whatever you have to weight in the other. And then there were Shaitan's creativity is just amazing to me. So what people do is that they have a magnet at the bottom of the table and they manipulate the weight of that metal. Even when it comes to the computerized scale, the one that's computer, somehow they found a hack that they can even manipulate that one. So when it comes to business, Sarat al-Mustaqim is not about just facing Qibla and said, do namaz. Is about how you do even business. So measurement is not only about those traditional, the modern way. You sell something online, you put the false description of the item you're selling. You tell me, is that qist? Is that a fair way of doing transaction? We heard about it, people bought iPad, but they were, at fault that they thought they can buy iPad for that cheap price. And they end up getting an iPad made out of wood. So how do you were able to, trick people? So no. We draw it, there's literally a print on the top of the wood. So every time, every place, when it comes to doing business, it means if you deceive people, it's haram and it's out of the Sirat al-Mustaqim. It could be I sell a car and I lie about it. I do a paint job and said, okay, it had no issue. That's another one. So don't say, because Quran didn't mention the way we sell car or we sell stock market or sell a house, so it's okay if I have some kind of deceiving in those businesses. Qist means being just and fair in the way you do business. Don't lie, don't take something from the customer. Don't lie to them and steal from them. So if they pay for something, provide for it. Equivalent amount, and Islam said even a bit more. Even a bit more. It doesn't mean don't make profit. You make profit. There's no reason to lie about it. And I say a lot of halal people make it haram. There's a story Imam Ali says that he asked somebody to hold his horse for him. And Imam went to do something. When he came back, the guy stole basically something that was basically controlling the horse. I don't know the exact name for it, but he stole something that it worth at that time 10 dinar. He left the horse unattended, but he stole something off the horse and left. And Imam went and started searching in the market, and he found his own, what was the item that was stolen from him, and he paid 10 dinar to get it back. And he looked at his companion and said, my plan was to pay for him for holding my horse for 10 dinar. But he just decided to do it haram way. He didn't wait for it. So Islam said, oh, just do your business. You should not make profit. Make profit. I bought this. This is my price. You can't do that. That's perfectly halal. But to lie, I swear to God, I'm selling it for loss. I hardly make it even. For some reason. وأوفوا الكيل والميزان بالقسط لا نكلف نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah said, we will not place a burden of someone more than what they can handle, until their ability, except what they can handle. Next, وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَعْدِلُوا. When you speak, in your speech and your words, be fair. Do justice in your words. Don't exaggerate and don't undermine. Some people compliment to go to a level of exaggerating and literally inflating someone's ego. That's one extreme, not justice. And then we have people who are bitter all the time. Oh, this guy, it works for nothing. He's a nobody. They don't have a balanced way of looking at people. Is absolutely, perfect, or is absolutely despicable. There's nowhere in the middle. They close any possible door. وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَعْدِلُوا وَلَوْ كَانَ ذَا قُرْبَى. Said Sirat al-Mustaqim is to say the truth, to say what is just and right, even if it's about somebody close to you. So that means if your wife tell you, please apologize for what you've done and you're wrong, say, I'm sorry. That's somebody close to you to say the justice. If you did something wrong and your husband said, I'm sorry, apologize to your husband. Who can do that, by the way, with the big egos of our time? I had a hard time making couples apologize to each other. Okay, I'm sorry. You happy now? Right? You happy now? What happened? That kind of apology I got, by the way. So be just in your word. Even if it means say against your own interest. Even if it means that if somebody asks you to be somehow to speak on their behalf, even if they're your sister, even if it means your friend, if it's right, say it. If it's not, you have to oppose them. You have to disagree with them, even if it's close to you. وَبَعَهْدِ اللَّهِ أَوْفُوا. And fulfill your promise to God. If you make a pact with God, that could be a nadr. You make a pact with God. In general, I do nazr, if this happen, I'll do this. One of those ahd we make when something bad is happening, when I have MCAT or GMAT or some one of the big tests, Ya Allah, if this happen, I'm not going to miss another 2 rakat prayers, right? If this happen, I'll do this and that. That's the pact you make with God, and God grants you with faculties, with means, and literally at the end of it said, God, I've done it myself, don't worry about it, right? Don't worry about it. I'll do it myself. بَعَهْدِ اللَّهِ أَوْفُوا. If you give your word to God, stand by that. ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. This is what Allah advised you with, that you may be reminded. تَذَكَّرُونَ is that these are not new information. You know to be fair in doing business. You know to say the truth even against your own self-interest. These are already known, fair, common sense. But sometimes you need reminders, that you may be reminded. وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا. Total of 10, if you combine all of them. But I don't want you to mistake that for 10 commandments of Torah. But if you put these two verses, 151 and 152 of Surah An'am, that's the detailed description of Allah said, this is a straight path. And by the way, straight path is not only about one subject. You've noticed, right? It is about family. It is about economy and about money. It is about word and speech. It's about orphans. It's about God. That's the beauty of Allah's description. That is not one dimensional. It's not just to emphasize on one thing. It's on everything. But I've heard from so many people, love people, that's all it matters. Do this and that's only matters. No, it's not about one thing and only one thing. If balance of these details, way of description of Allah is in our lives, we're fortunate to follow that path that Allah explained. So we cannot complain to Allah, Ya Allah, you didn't tell me which path to follow. I was confused. There were so many options, there were so many roads. Allah detailed, and in general, He gave us people, conductors, such as our prophets and Ahlul Bayt. They're the conductors. They told us about the path. And also we know about the detailed activities, actions, efforts that we have to invest in order to, inshallah, be one of the people, one of those people who are blessed. And they are on the straight path and Sirat al-Mustaqim. I appreciate your attention and your time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us not to only preach and say what's right, but also to practice, to execute and implement what's right in our life. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to acknowledge and accept our flaws. And I pray to Allah for forgiveness for all those. And I pray to Him that give me the tawfiq before of the end of my life to be able to make up and to recover of the damage that I've caused. And I pray for the health and well-being of all those who are ill and marid. Let's inshallah recite Surah Fatiha for all the marhumin, and recite the Fatiha for also for all those who are marid for their quick shafa and recovery with the salawat ala Muhammadin wa